The Bijago people, also known as the Bijagos, are an indigenous ethnic group inhabiting the Bijagos archipelago, a series of islands off the coast of Guinea-Bissau in West Africa. The Bijagos are particularly distinct for their unique social structure, cultural practices, and most notably, the prominent role that women play within their society. Unlike many other patriarchal societies in Africa, the Bijago people are matriarchal, where women dominate both domestic and social life. Central to this matriarchy is a system of gender relations that contrasts starkly with the norms of many other cultures, particularly when it comes to sexuality and the power dynamics between men and women. Understanding the nature of Bijago society and its approach to sexuality requires an exploration of its broader cultural setting. The Bijagos archipelago is a relatively isolated region, allowing the people to preserve traditions that might otherwise have been altered by external influences. This isolation has fostered the development of their unique matrilineal system, where inheritance and social status are passed down through the female line. Women hold significant power in many areas of life, including land ownership, religious rituals, and decision-making in family matters. Men, while still playing essential roles within the community, are often subject to the authority of women. This power structure extends into the realm of sexuality, where Bijago women exercise remarkable autonomy and control over their relationships with men. Sexuality within the Bijago community is closely linked to its matriarchal nature. Unlike in many societies where male dominance extends into sexual relations, Bijago women are the ones who typically initiate and control these interactions. Sexual relations among the Bijagos are largely driven by women, who are not bound by the same societal expectations of monogamy or sexual restraint that are often imposed on women in other cultures. Bijago women are free to pursue multiple partners, choose when and with whom to have sexual relations, and even decide when to end a relationship. This level of freedom is a key aspect of the matriarchal control that defines Bijago society. Men, on the other hand, are often in a subordinate position when it comes to sexuality. A Bijago man's role in a relationship is more passive, with the power dynamics firmly tilted in favor of the women. Women not only initiate sexual relationships, but can also dictate their terms and duration. If a woman decides that she no longer wishes to be with a particular man, she is free to end the relationship, with the man having little say in the matter. This level of autonomy allows Bijago women to maintain control over their bodies and their sexual lives, a privilege rarely afforded to women in other societies. This dynamic reflects a broader pattern within Bijago society, where men are often seen as secondary to women in many areas of life. Men's roles in governance, social organization, and religious rituals are generally more limited, with women taking the lead in these critical aspects of life. Sexuality, therefore, is not an isolated aspect of gender relations, but is instead deeply intertwined with a larger cultural framework that emphasizes female authority and male subordination. Bijago women's sexual autonomy is a powerful expression of their social dominance. In contrast to patriarchal cultures where women's sexuality is often controlled or suppressed, Bijago women actively engage in sexual relationships on their own terms. This autonomy is celebrated within their culture, and there are rituals and practices that reinforce and honor the sexual power of women. Marriage, for example, is an institution that operates very differently in Bijago culture compared to many other societies. Women often have multiple husbands or partners, and they are the ones who control these relationships. A woman may take a husband for a certain period and then dismiss him when she no longer desires his presence. Men, in this context, are seen more as temporary companions rather than permanent partners, and they can be replaced at the woman's discretion. Furthermore, the Bijagos have a tradition of what can be described as sexual freedom for women, particularly during certain rites of passage. Young Bijago women undergo initiation rituals that celebrate their sexual maturity and grant them the freedom to explore their sexuality without societal judgment. This period of exploration is considered a normal and healthy part of life, and it helps to reinforce the idea that Bijago women have full control over their bodies and their sexual choices. The treatment of men in Bijago society, particularly in the context of sexuality, can be quite striking for outsiders. Men are often expected to comply with the wishes of women, both in sexual matters and in broader social contexts. This subordination is reflected in how men are treated by their female counterparts. In relationships, men are typically chosen by women rather than the other way around. If a woman desires a man, she will approach him, and it is up to her to decide how long the relationship lasts. Men have little say in this matter, and if a woman loses interest, the relationship may end abruptly. Men are generally expected to accept these decisions without protest, as it is understood that women hold the ultimate authority in such matters. This power dynamic extends beyond individual relationships and into the broader social fabric of Bijago society. Men are often relegated to secondary roles, while women dominate decision-making processes within families and communities. This includes control over economic resources, religious practices, and even warfare, where women have been known to take leadership roles. Despite this subordination, the treatment of men in Bijago society is not necessarily one of cruelty or neglect. Rather, it reflects a different balance of power, one that privileges women in ways that are uncommon in most other cultures. Men, while subject to the authority of women, are still valued for their contributions to society, particularly in areas such as farming, fishing, and other forms of labor. However, in the realm of sexuality, they are decidedly in a more passive role, often at the mercy of women's desires and decisions. Another intriguing aspect of Bijago society is the fluidity with which gender roles are approached. While women hold the dominant position in both sexual and social matters, there is also a certain flexibility in how gender is understood and expressed. The Bijago people recognize that gender roles are not rigid, and individuals may move between different roles throughout their lives. This flexibility extends to sexuality, where both men and women may engage in same-sex relationships without the stigma that often accompanies such behavior in other cultures. In this context, Bijago women's sexuality is not just about their dominance over men, but also about a broader celebration of sexual diversity and freedom. Women are free to express their sexual desires in a variety of ways, whether with men or other women, and these expressions are seen as natural and healthy. Men, too, may engage in same-sex relationships, although they are generally more constrained by societal expectations than women in this regard. This fluidity in gender and sexual expression is another reflection of the unique way in which the Bijago people understand power and identity. In a society where women hold significant authority, there is also room for individuals to challenge traditional gender roles and explore different forms of sexual expression. The sexual autonomy of Bijago women is reinforced by various rituals and traditions that celebrate female power. These rituals often center around key life stages, such as puberty, marriage, and childbirth, and they serve to affirm women's control over their bodies and their sexual relationships. One of the most important rituals is the initiation ceremony that young women undergo when they reach sexual maturity. During this ceremony, women are taught about their sexual power and their role as the dominant figures in relationships. They are encouraged to explore their sexuality freely, and this period of exploration is seen as a crucial part of their development into adulthood. Marriage rituals in Bijago society also reflect the central role of women. When a woman decides to marry, it is she who chooses her husband, and the marriage is generally considered a temporary arrangement that may be dissolved at her will. The power dynamics of marriage are entirely in favor of women, who have the final say in all matters relating to the relationship. Childbirth, too, is a moment of celebration for Bijago women, as it reaffirms their role as the bearers of life and the central figures in the community. Women who give birth are honored and revered, and they continue to hold significant influence within their families and the broader society.